have you ever ignored, Laura, or your own intuition and later regretted it? Because I asked that question because I am where I am in my life because I am guided by that intuition, and every decision I ever made that brought me progress or success came from my intuition. I mean, I remember when I was a young girl, the first time I heard it was when I remember hearing it. I was a young girl watching my grandmother hang clothes on a line, and she had the clothespins in her mouth, and it was cold, and I could see the breath, and she said, "You better watch me do this because one day you're going to have to learn to do this for yourself." And I didn't know it was called intuition. The voice inside me said, "No, you won't." The voice inside me said, "No, you won't." And it was so strong that I started to listen to that thing, that voice, and that voice guided me to Chicago when everybody else said I would fail by going to Chicago. That voice said, "No, you won't." And so the only time I have ever been unsuccessful in my life is when I did not listen to that voice.
I feel the same way. And I think the only time that I haven't listened to my intuition really speaks to what what the prism is all about, which is when I didn't value myself enough, that my own vessel was cluttered, and thereby I couldn't trust what I was getting. I didn't have enough sense of myself to trust what was coming in.
Yeah.
And I think, I'm so grateful that I've had the opportunity to work with mentors, work with people, work with Laura. And for those who don't, I feel like having this roadmap that allows you to kind of get in there because, once your container is clear, once you've, untethered from those traumas that are clouding your perception, the clarity that comes through, it becomes so, it's like almost things move with just absolute ease and grace.
Yes, it means
Something
you are
comes up,
literally in the flow of life. Don't you feel like it's like you're in the stream of life, you're in the flow of life rather than struggling against the tide of your life?
100%. It's like that. If you're working, like if I've ever been working on something and it's like putting a square peg in a round hole where it's not about not working hard, because working hard feels great.
Yeah.
But it's when something, then it's like the signs are saying to you, maybe this isn't where you're meant to be.
Because you're out of alignment. Yeah.
Yeah. But I also think that one of the ways that you're such a good example of the prism is that when you haven't been doing one thing, you've been doing another. You haven't neglected the prism of your life and your being, all of the different parts. So because you're public, and I know you very intimately, sometimes publicly they'll think, oh, what's she doing? Where'd she go? It's been a while. But I know you're doing a million things you wanted to do, you needed to do, you had to show up for other people. And I think that is such an important part of the prism. And part of the things that people don't see in celebrity, they see like when a magazine covers you or a movie comes out, but they don't see how much work and how much achievement you do and have done in so many other parts of your life, including a New York Times bestseller.
Well, New York Times bestseller is one thing, but may I say this? I say this every time I encounter Demi. Demi changed the way the world saw pregnant women. And I don't even, what year was that Annie Leibovitz cover?
Let's see, 91.
Before 1991, y'all, all of you who are watching, who are younger or listening to us, women wore maternity clothes. There were you would cover up your pregnancy. You were not allowed to, you didn't feel like.
There was still a kind of a shroud of shame that you had sex.
Yes.
I always said it used to be like you were celebrated when you let everyone know that you were going to have a baby, and you were celebrated once the baby arrived. But there was a point in that, and as your body grew, that you were then supposed to cover up. And if you think about it, like going way back to the 50s, and literally up in really, I would say until the beginning of the 90s, that they had these like Peter Pan collars.
Yes, 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 yes.
They're like trying to portray virginity.
Yes, yes. So tell me, what caused you to instinctively know that that was the right decision to make? Because at the time, it was a gasping, bold, bodacious move that you're on the cover of Vanity Fair with your entire belly out.
I think it goes back to what you were saying about that moment with your grandmother, which is in that moment, it was really about, like, for me, life is all about transformation and growth, and that everything else is in service to that. And so for me, it was a moment of really wanting to just authentically express how I was feeling as a pregnant woman.
Wow.
That I didn't understand why it was supposed to be hidden or not celebrated, and so it's not like I set out to go, I'm making a big feminist statement, or it was really about my own. I think it was about trying to claim more of myself. Because
Wow.
as I shared, and as Laura knows, I didn't come from having a lot of me, so everything was in trying to find that and then express it as genuinely as I possibly could. And, it's like it came in, and, when we did the photo, by the way, it was done for me. It was not for the magazine.
Really?
That was for my family. Annie had photographed me my first pregnancy, and we were grabbing it at the very end of the shoot. And so when they called me 2 weeks later, and I had said when we were shooting, boy, wouldn't it be amazing if they had the courage to do this? And she called me 2 weeks later saying, hey, how would I feel? And it felt right. It's not like, it's like when the intuition comes in, it just touches your knowing.
Yes,
You don't
yes,
have
yes.
to believe it. You don't have to try to make yourself get it. It's just there. You know it.
Yes. So you weren't going through, should I not, should I don't know, could I, what are people going to think? That's because
Yep.
you're right. When the intuition is right, you know it. You know
You
it.
know it.
Well, again, I say you revolutionize that. And I don't know if, younger people understand that it all started with you in that cover. So we have you to thank for that.
Well, I'm grateful. Like, it's like one of those moments where I'm grateful, and the gift of what it gave me, of how it enriched me by kind of taking ownership of kind of who I was, what my experience was. And every time, by the way, now that I see someone do a picture where they're celebrating
Yes.
their body, it just fills me with such joy.
Yes.
Really,
yes.
I feel so deeply humbled by it.